Almost there, my friends, almost there. There we go. So good morning, my friends. Good morning, and welcome to another gathering of PB Reads the Bible. Excuse me. Great to be gathered together with you this morning. Great to be connected in this way and engaged with each other in this way. I look forward to these opportunities. Today is chapter 50 of Genesis. We're doing Genesis 50 today. PB Reads the Bible. I'm PB. I'm the pastor here at St. Andrew's United Methodist Church. And that's what we do. I read the Bible. You follow along in yours or just listen while you're doing other things. And then I share some comments, commentary, my own thoughts, as well as thoughts of renowned biblical scholars, people who actually know it, who do know what they're talking about, things that I've read. And I share those thoughts to help open it up, explain things so we have a better idea of what's going on. And if you're joining us for the first time, well, welcome. However, this is the end of Genesis, so I'm going to suggest that you go find us and you can catch up. You can review all of the chapters, all the sessions, especially if you stay with us. Maybe it'll pique your interest and you'll want to go find us. Now, unfortunately, Facebook has changed their policies regarding live videos. They're only keeping them on the server and accessible through Facebook for 30 days, and then they delete them. So what we have done is taken all of our videos and moved them over to our YouTube channel. So find us on YouTube, and you'll be able to watch and catch up on all of our videos that we're doing, that we have done, including all the ones from Genesis. How can you find the YouTube channel? Of course, you can go to YouTube and search St. Andrew's UMC Milton. Don't remember exactly how it shows up on there. Or, since you're here on Facebook after we're done, you can scroll down a few days, because we did post about that on Facebook a few days ago, letting people know that we've got it all taken care of and all caught up. Oh, look at that. Ask and you shall receive. There is the church's awesome secretary, Susan Bastian, fast at it, posting stuff there. There's the link for YouTube. Thank you, Susan. Such efficiency, even when she's not here in the office. And I see a lot of things are popping up there. That's awesome. Great. I love that all of you were joining me this morning, and you're already letting me know, even though I didn't say anything. So go ahead and do that. Check in. Romper Room roll call here, and post your questions, your comments, and your prayer requests, whatever it is that's giving you life and whatever it is that's weighing you down. Even if you're not joining live, if you're not engaging with us live, you can still post all that stuff, because I go back in and look. Bonnie Lloyd, good morning, Bonnie. Good morning, Marcia. Good morning, John and Cindy. And good morning, officially, Susan. Good morning to Sharon. And good morning, Bonnie Miller. Wow. Wonderful group today. Wonderful group always. Don't say today, Brian. Always a wonderful group. I love it. Love it. All right. I'm pretty sure that Crystal is listening. She told me she was going to be listening. She didn't think she would be able to type. Keep driving. Eyes on the road, lady. So that's one of the things she's asking for prayers for this morning. She and Helen are driving about a 3-hour ride out to the campus for IUP, Indiana University, Pennsylvania. I think that's what it stands for anyway. And so they're on their way out there. So traveling mercies for 3-hour ride out and 3-hour ride back. So thank you for that. She'd also asked for prayers. Her cousin Rachel, who we've been praying for, and it had the lymph nodes removed and the open wound that wasn't healing. It's still not healing. But the wound specialist said, you need to go ahead with radiation anyway. So they are hoping that they're going to be starting radiation soon, even though the wound is still open and is not healing. They really need to get started on that. So prayers for that. Sunday service on YouTube now? Oh, okay. Where was I? I shouldn't watch that until I'm done talking. So prayers for Rachel, because we do still need to pray for that healing to take place, for that to finish up. She's probably going to be experiencing some difficulties and added layers of concern with the radiation because of that. So Cindy and John ask, is Sunday worship service on YouTube now? Not yet. Not yet live, I should say. Let me phrase it that way. We have downloaded the videos and uploaded them to YouTube, so you can find all of our worship there as well. You know, if you missed a Sunday, and they're in playlists by year. So some of them are out of order chronologically. But we couldn't really fix that because that would have taken a long time, putting each one going back and starting with the oldest and all that. So we didn't do that. But they've all been uploaded and they've been put in playlists by year. You might have to scroll through. But yeah, there we go. As soon as Susan commented, she usually posts those on Monday mornings. So the day after. Of course, they are still available. We're still live on Facebook, and they're available on Facebook for 30 days. We're actually looking at a couple different ways to try to live stream also to YouTube, and we hope to have that figured out. We hope to. This is a busy time of year, though, for churches and for everybody in churches, for all staff. So we're working on it. We just can't guarantee when that's going to happen. And Cindy, John, you are welcome. We will keep you posted, of course. Some folks prefer Facebook over YouTube, and some folks prefer YouTube over Facebook, and we want to try to reach as many people as we can. And sometimes YouTube works better than Facebook, and probably vice versa as well. So anyway, there's all of that. I would also ask for prayers. Let's keep all the folks in the Midwest, the flooding, in our prayers and in our thoughts, especially throughout Ohio and Kentucky. We have some friends in Kentucky, and they got like 5 inches of rain in a matter of a day or just over a day, something like that. So fortunately, they're okay, but not so. Nearby them, not so much. So let's go to the Lord in prayer. Gracious, amazing God, we thank you for this day that you have given to us, and this opportunity to gather together in this way through this amazing technology, to be connected and engaged, and to share life with one another. And as Scripture says, we rejoice with each other's rejoices, and we mourn when each other mourns. So we lift to you everything that's on our hearts and our minds, the ones we've verbalized, as well as the ones we have not. And we just ask for miracles, and we ask for healing. And we ask all of these things in your Son, Jesus' name. Oh, and we also ask for your presence, your Spirit, to be with us this morning, to open our hearts and our minds to what you would have us receive. Amen. Excuse me. Amen. Oh, and good morning, Sandy. Good to have you with us this morning as well. All right. So as I said, today's chapter 50, the last chapter of Genesis, and I'll save the announcements until the end. Okay. For me, today is April 10th. I should have said this earlier, just in case. I know you're not all joining live. It is April 10th, and it is now 9:09. I've been talking for a long time and didn't even get anywhere. So this is the last chapter. In our last episode of Brothers and Betrayal, Jacob had called his sons together, and he had, quote-unquote, blessed them, and some of them were actually more like curses than they were blessings. And then he brought his feet up onto his bed, and he died. So that's where it left. That's where it ended. It was sort of that cliffhanger. what's going to happen now? The brothers had a partial reconciliation and restoration. Was it complete? Was it complete? Is everything aces? Is everything a-okay, copacetic between Joseph and his brothers? We're going to find out. So, chapter 50, verse 1. Then Joseph threw himself on his father's face and wept over him and kissed him. Joseph commanded the physicians in his service to embalm his father. So the physicians embalmed Israel. They spent 40 days in doing this, for that is the time required for embalming. And the Egyptians wept for him 70 days. Pause. I know I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again now. I'll probably be saying it again in future ones. Don't read the numbers literally. 40 days doesn't necessarily mean that it took 40 days for embalming. 40 is a symbolic number for a long period of time. Okay, that's why that number shows up so many times throughout Scripture. 40 days, 40 years, whatever the case may be, it just means a really, really long time. And the same thing for 70. The Egyptians wept for him for 70 days. Well, 10 and 7 are like complete numbers, almost perfect numbers, and so between the 7 and the 10 multiplied together, it means a super long time, and it was like a perfect period of mourning. It's a very long time, even longer than the 40, to symbolize the esteem with which Jacob was being held and honored. Okay? I would also point out and note that they're using Egyptian traditions. Is this significant? I kind of think it is. I think it's at least partially symbolic of how embedded into Egyptian culture Joseph in particular, but the rest of the family as well, has become and is becoming. Remember, they're only supposed to be there for a period of time. They're only supposed to be there for a period of time, and then they're supposed to move on. What was the purpose for them being in Egypt? The famine. However, we've already found out how long, it's told us that Jacob was there in Egypt for 17 years? The famine should have been done after the first 4 or 5. So they've already been there longer than they were probably supposed to be. Is that important? I think so. Anyway, so picking up from there, verse 4. Oh, and the 40 and the 70, it's written not like 40 days and then 70 days. The 40 is part of the 70. So the long period of embalming, while that's going on, grief and mourning has taken place. But the mourning goes on for almost as long again. Verse 4, when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph addressed the household of Pharaoh. If now I have found favor with you, please speak to Pharaoh as follows. My father made me swear an oath. He said, I am about to die. In the tomb that I hewed out for myself in the land of Canaan, there you shall bury me. Now therefore let me go up, so that I may bury my father, then I will return. Pharaoh answered, go up and bury your father, as he made you swear to do. Pause. So, a couple interesting things here. Notice, for whatever reason, Joseph doesn't go directly to Pharaoh. I find that interesting, and I wonder why. And I really haven't been able to find why. We don't know. Was there a falling out? He has been serving as Pharaoh's prime minister, right? The first in command. Although now the famine's over, maybe that's made a difference. I don't know. But for whatever reason, he doesn't go directly to Pharaoh. He seems to be going through the proper line, but I don't think he should have had to, but he did. Now, his wording is different than Jacob's command to him. He's adding in extra details. Does that mean he's trying to trick Pharaoh? No, I don't think so. Maybe it was a private conversation that wasn't here, or he's just embellishing the story and the promise, the vow that he made, to say that he, oh, it's the special one that my father carved out for himself. And Sharon worked. Good morning, Sharon. All right, and he says, "Let me go, and I will come back. I will come back." That's important too, I believe. Pharaoh says, "Go ahead. Go ahead. Do it." Is he going up by himself? Is he going up just with his family? Neither. Neither. Wait till you see this. Verse 7. Joseph went up to bury his father. With him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his household, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, as well as all the household of Joseph, his brothers, and his father's household. Only their children, their flocks, and their herds were left in the land of Goshen. Both chariots and charioteers went up with him. It was a very great company. Pause. Hyperbole, obviously, exaggeration. This makes it sound like there wasn't a person left in Egypt except for the kids. The point the author is making is that it was a big entourage loaded with not only Joseph and the rest of the family, Jacob's family, but high-ranking officials, debutantes from Pharaoh, satraps and precepts and all that kind of stuff going along with him. Not everybody, but a large entourage. A large entourage. It's using hyperbole to get across that idea. Why? Why is this taking place? Again, to show the esteem with which Jacob was held, the respect that he had been given so far. Notice what else went up with him. Chariots and charioteers went up with him. What difference does that make? Chariots and charioteers. That's military. That's military. This is now a military convoy. He's got a military escort to take him home. That's like 21 gun salute kind of thing on steroids. Sending along your chariots and your charioteers. Chariots and charioteers, not only were they the military, that's the best that the military had to offer. Okay, that's like the top-notch, best weaponry, best plane, hot off the lines, being put into use. So Jacob is taking his best. What else we can see here is, knowing the story of the Exodus. And if you don't know the story of the Exodus, I'm sorry about that, and it's going to be a little bit of a spoiler. But here, Egypt and both Egyptian people and the best of Egypt is willingly leaving Egypt to go with the Hebrews on a journey back to Canaan. So this sort of presages, this gives a foreshadow of the Exodus, when not so willingly, well, actually willingly, they give up their stuff to send the Hebrews away. Okay, so there's a connection between those two. There's a connection between those two. And it was a very great company. Picking up from there, verse 10. When they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Jordan, they held there a very great and sorrowful lamentation, and he observed a time of mourning for his father 7 days. Pause. Normally, when it says the land beyond the Jordan, it's talking about what's known as the Transjordan, which is geographically a section of land on the east of the river Jordan. However, that may not be the case now, because they're not in Canaan yet. They're outside of Canaan. So maybe it's talking about the western side of Jordan, in other words, in Canaan land itself. perhaps just inside. Point is, we don't know which of those Atad is, the floor of Atad. We don't know where it is. But again, the point is another period of mourning for his father for 7 days, which again is a complete period of time. Verse 11, when the Canaanite inhabitants of the land saw them mourning on the threshing floor of Atad, they said, this is a grievous mourning on the part of the Egyptians. Therefore the place was named Abel Mizrahim. It is beyond the Jordan. Pause. We don't know where this place is. Depends on your translation, but it probably means one of two things. The mourning of Egypt, Mourning, makes a lot of sense since we're talking about mourning, but it can also be translated meadow, the meadow of Egypt, or Egyptians. Verse 12, thus his sons did for him as he had instructed them. They carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field at Machpelah, the field near Mamre, which Abraham bought as a burial site from Ephron the Hittite. After he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had gone up with him to bury his father. Pause. So I've read from commentators that say this means the brothers buried him by themselves. That doesn't say that to me. That they left the entourage behind at Atad and they carried Jacob to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave, etc., etc. It doesn't say that, so I'm not sure why why that thought is out there, why they say that. To me, it's just like an aside that it's just a statement that they finished their job. They actually took him and buried him. And again, they're bringing up, the author narrator wants to be clear where they're burying him. They're burying him in that cave, on that first piece, that piece of the promised land, the first piece that Abraham and his family had taken possession of. And then Joseph and everybody with him returned to Egypt. Which again is very telling. It's very telling. So they've succeeded. They've accomplished their task. They've fulfilled their vow, their promise to their father, and they have buried him. And now they've gone back to Egypt. Is everything going to be okay? This would be a spot in the soap opera where it would go to commercial, but we're not going to cut to commercial. So we're going to go to verse 15. And although I read from the NRSV, I'm going to be comparing it to the NIV, because actually there's a couple spots in here where it seems the NIV gets the translation a little bit better. All right, I'm going to first read from the NRSV just because that's what I've always been doing throughout this. Verse 15, realizing that their father was dead, Joseph's brothers said, what if Joseph still bears a grudge against us and pays us back in full for all the wrong that we did to him? So they approached Joseph, saying, your father gave this instruction before he died. Say to Joseph, I beg you, forgive the crime of your brothers and the wrong they did in harming you. Now therefore, please forgive the crime of the servants of the God of your father. Joseph wept when they spoke to him. We're going to pause there for a moment. And I'm going to read it now in the NIV because there's a couple things in here that the NIV seems to get right that the NRSV misses. And it's not that it's intentionally done wrong. Trying to make a long story short, there are various sources that are used to do translations. One is the original Hebrew text, which is good but also can be bad because it can be hard to understand. Other times the scholars use something called the Septuagint, which is a Greek translation of the original Hebrew. However, that also can be good or bad because of did the Greek properly translate the Hebrew, or did it skip something? And it seems that the Hebrew Septuagint, the Greek Septuagint, missed something, and the NIV has it has it perhaps more correct. So I'm going to reread those few verses. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him?" So they sent word to Joseph, saying, "Your father left these instructions before he died. This is what you are to say to Joseph. I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father." When their message came to him, Joseph wept. Pause. I hope I read it properly and you were able to catch the difference between those two. The Hebrew seems to indicate that they used a messenger. The NRSV skips that part. They say that the brothers went to Joseph. But the way it's written in Hebrew, and the NIV seems to get it, it really seems to be that they sent a messenger to Joseph, that they didn't go straight to him, that they sent this messenger to Joseph. And again, he weeps, but he's not weeping in their presence. Earlier, he wept in their presence when he first revealed himself, and they had that beginning of a restoration and reconciliation. He wept in their presence. And when his father died, just 10 verses earlier, 15 verses earlier, he wept in front of his brothers. But here he's weeping not in front of his brothers because he got this message from them. All right? And then verse 18, the NRSV says, "Then his brothers also wept and fell down before him." But the NIV, the brothers actually have to show up first. But notice they don't wait. They don't wait for the messenger to come back with a reply of how Joseph reacted or what his response was. His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. "We are your slaves," they said. So they don't wait for the reply, it seems. They show up and throw themselves down at his feet. This is not to be seen as fulfillment of his early dreams when they were going to be doing that. This is a little bit different. This is different than that. This is truly asking for forgiveness. All right, back to the NRSV and verse 18. See a little bit of a difference, and then we'll just pick up from there. "Then his brothers also wept, fell down before him, and said, 'We are here as your slaves.' But Joseph said to them, 'Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? Even though you intended to do harm, God intended it for good, in order to preserve a numerous people, as he is doing today. So have no fear. I myself will provide for you and your little ones.' In this way, he reassured them, speaking kindly to them." Pause. All right. So the brothers come, they begin weeping also, and they throw themselves down at his feet. And they're using again this servant-slave language, this master-slave language. They said, we are here as your slaves. Joseph's reply, well, "Do not be afraid," which is a typical response from God. Whenever there is it's called a theophany, Theophany. Might want to write that down. It'll be on the final exam. Spoiler alert, there's no final exam. But a theophany is an appearance by God in physical form. And that usually begins with some version of "do not be afraid." Same thing as when an angel shows up, right? When an angel shows up, it's almost always "do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid." But Joseph is using this language. And his next sentence is, "Am I in the place of God?" Am I in the place of God? For two things. Because finally he addresses what they're doing as having been evil, right? Intending harm. He addresses those things as being evil, but says that God, and the word intended is not exactly right, intended it for good. God made good out of it, but that's a longer, harder thing to say, is the better context of the Hebrew. When we say God intended, it makes it sound like God planned for Joseph to be sold as a slave and put in prison and all that stuff. And that's not true. But that God used all of those things to accomplish the task that God is accomplishing today. So he says, am I in the place of God? Has to do with this idea of holding a grudge and not forgiving, or punishing, I should say. But it also has to do with the idea of them being slaves. He's putting himself on an equal footing with his brothers, that we can only be slaves to God. God is the only one that we are going to be slaves to, that we're going to be servants to. And the word servant is too weak. Slave is a better term for that. So you can't be my slave, because I'm equal to you, and we can only be God's slaves. Again, foreshadowing what's going to happen in the beginning of the book of Exodus. What happens in the beginning of the book of Exodus. And his words are clear, so have no fear. Have no fear. I myself will provide for you and your little ones. So he's letting them know you're going to be taken care of, but not only you, also your children. In other words, your descendants, your life. And because you won't be wiped away, you won't be forgotten, I will take care of you and your children. All right. So verse 22. This will finish it up. 22 to 26. So Joseph remained in Egypt, he and his father's household, and Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. The children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were also born on Joseph's knees. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to you and bring you up out of this land to the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So Joseph made the Israelites swear, saying, when God comes to you, you shall carry up my bones from here. And Joseph died, being 110 years old. He was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. End of chapter 50. End of the book of Genesis. Not quite the end of our conversation. Key things in here. So Joseph remained in Egypt. He's 110 years old. The famine is long gone. He's been there for 70 years after the famine is over. Yeah, again, I know. Don't read all those numbers literally. I keep saying that, and I'm saying the same thing. But symbolically, the famine was a 7-year famine, and symbolically, he's been there for 70 years past the end of it, plus or minus. Okay? They were only supposed to be there for a brief period of time, but he lived there long enough to see his great-grandchildren and to have them born on his knees, meaning he claimed them as his descendants. It's almost like adopting them, or legally making them almost his children. Excuse me. And his brothers are still there in Egypt, but we're seeing, so the author is connecting this very strongly to what's going to happen next. Genesis is a prequel. The main story for the Hebrew people is the story of the Exodus. The whole book of Genesis has been setting the stage for the book of Exodus. It's been explaining why is God concerned about these people. It's telling the story, where did these people come from? It's telling the story of why and how did the people get here before everything that takes place in Exodus. It's a prequel. It's a prequel. And we need to remember that. We need to remember that. The Exodus is the great turning point in Hebrew history. Hebrew history. All right. But so he's saying God is going to come and take you home. And take you out of this land and give you the land that he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So making this connection, strong connection, back to the prior generations. So when that happens, when God comes to save you, you carry up my bones from here. Don't leave me here. And then he died. Now, notice some of the differences between Joseph's death and Jacob's death. So Jacob's death, Joseph had him embalmed. Joseph dies, he's embalmed. But we're told that when Jacob died, the Egyptians mourned for 70 days. We're not told anything about that here. When Jacob died, there's this huge entourage with more mourning taking place as they carry him to a faraway place so he can be buried. And this simply says that Joseph was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt. I just find that interesting. But I think it's telling us a little bit about the difference in how people saw Jacob and Joseph. And even though Joseph was highly respected, not so much now, maybe. Could that be because some of the first words in the book of Exodus, this, you can just turn your page if you want, if you've got your Bible open, you'll see it, that a new Pharaoh rises who did not know Joseph. Joseph is forgotten about. This seems like they're already forgetting about Joseph and what he had done. And they're not quite as concerned because it's been so long since all those great things that he had done and how he had saved them. They've forgotten it, and he's buried. He's embalmed and put in a casket. Although being embalmed by itself is important because that was something that was reserved for royalty. That was something that was at least usually reserved for royalty. So they still recognize him as an important man, but not to the point of any great burial or excuse me, or anything like that. All right. So that was it for Genesis. Ta-da! We're done with Genesis. We are taking a break. We're going to take 2 weeks. We're going to take a 2-week break. Next week is Holy Week. Lots of stuff going on in the church and community, and lots of stuff for me to be working on. And then the following week might be a good week to just take a little bit of a break. All right, so we're going to take off next week and the week after. We'll be back on Tuesday, April 29th. At least that's my plan right now. Okay, if that changes, keep looking for posts because we'll let you know if that changes on whether or not that'll be okay. But right now, Tuesday the 29th and Thursday, May 1st, look good for coming back for our Bible study. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, and because it'll be for a few weeks. I'm going to pick something shorter than Genesis for sure, as our next one. Yeah, I mean it would make a lot of sense to go from Genesis to Exodus. I just said that Genesis is the prequel for Exodus, and it would make a lot of sense to just carry from one into the other, so that Joseph and everything we've been talking about for the past few months is still at least somewhat in your minds and in my mind. But it's a very long one, and I'm going to be taking a couple weeks vacation in June, so we're going to be taking we're going to have to take a lot of breaks, and I'd rather not do that with the book of Exodus if it can be avoided. So our next one is going to be that last week in April and the first 2 or 3, maybe 4 weeks of May, and then we'll be taking a break for several weeks because of conference and annual conferences coming up, in the end of May, and then I'm taking a couple weeks vacation. And then we'll start up with something else. Then we're going to start with Mark, because then the kids will be out of school, and I think that would be a good one for them to perhaps be engaged in throughout summer. So a summer reading program here at St. Andrews for our youth. So we'll be doing something shorter. What it'll be, I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm thinking James. Some of you know me from prior appointments and stuff, and you know James is one of my favorite books of the Bible, and it is relatively short, but it's got a lot of stuff in it. So we might do that, or we might do something else. One of the other letters. I'll look. I have to make up my mind, which is hard sometimes. Anyway, my friends, so you got that to look forward to. But between now and April 29th, oh my gosh, do we have stuff for you. Because first of all, we have Sunday worship this coming Sunday, which is Palm/Passion Sunday, and it's the last Sunday of our series entering the Passion of Jesus, and we'll be looking at the garden, risking temptation. It's going to be Jesus in the garden. And then Thursday evening, Thursday, April 17th, we will be, we're hosting here our Maundy Thursday worship with our friends from Bethany. Will be joining us for that, and the following day, the Friday, Good Friday, we'll be over at their church, and I'll be leading the congregation through a Tenebrae service. I don't think I'm going to be preaching so much as reading. I'm going to be reading the story from John, two full chapters of John broken up into sections. So I think that'll be great. And then, of course, on Sunday, April 20th, is Easter worship. Woo-hoo! And that'll be at 10:30, which, of course, this Sunday is also 10:30. I should have said that. Please join us for any and all of those worship experiences, and in person if possible, because we would love to have you join us here in our sanctuary. But if you're not able to, join us online here on Facebook. Definitely for this Sunday. You know, I think Monday, Thursday we'll be able to live stream. I'm not 100% sure of that. Depends on if we have it figured out. Friday, we won't be. I'm not sure if Bethany will be or not. I'm not sure. I don't think they live stream. But then, of course, on Easter, yes, we'll be back live streaming. And Easter is also, we're having breakfast. We're having that breakfast before worship. So if you can join us for that, breakfast is at 9 o'clock. Please contact the church office, like tomorrow, with your reservation. Or if you come into worship on Sunday, you can fill out a little paper and pop it in the offering plate to let us know that you're coming for worship. We'd love to have you. All right. Yes, I have someone who's, okay, Monday, there we go. See, again, I ask the question or I make a statement, and our wonderful secretary, Susan, she is so much more than a secretary, friends. She's on top of it, and we will have worship live streamed on Maundy Thursday. Great. All right, my friends. Again, thanks for joining me. I pray that this has been beneficial. I pray that you've learned something or relearned something, that God has spoken to you in some way through what we've done this morning and read and said. As you go about your days, not just today, but every day, keep those eyes and ears open to everything that our living, loving, active God is doing in your life and in the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say, "Thank you, Papa," and then tell somebody about it, including us. Come back and tell us about it. Until we meet again, my friends, be blessed. Be blessed. Bye.